Hi, ¿cómo estás? How are you? Wie geht's? Have you ever been in a situation where you didn't know how to communicate with those around you because perhaps there's a language barrier, you didn't speak the same language, they didn't speak English? Well, it happens more often than you might think. Personally, I think it's extremely important to be bilingual to try and avoid these events. I personally am bilingual in German. I have been speaking it for 7 years now. I'm planning on minoring in it. I've been there. I'm nearly fluent in it. And I feel like it's extremely important because at some point in your future, you are most likely going to run into someone who doesn't speak English or can't speak it very well. Whether this is for work, whether you're at a tourist place, whether you are at an amusement park, or whether you're just traveling on your own to a different country. It's important to be prepared and know that these things might happen at some point in your life. So I think that learning the basic conversational speaking of another language is beneficial for you and it can help you prepare for these events. That's why I strongly believe that every single American should be bilingual and at least know basic conversations. Today we're going to be talking about 3 main points. We're going to be discussing the fact that language is a way of expressing yourself. It is a fantastic form of self-expression. We are specifically going to be talking about American Sign Language, but how language can benefit you and those around you. And we're going to be talking about the funding concerns and how it may be expensive at first, but we'll be able to get through it. So the first thing we're going to be talking about is the fact that America is literally a melting pot of all these different cultures and languages, and we're all from all around the world, and we all settled here in America. And at that point, shouldn't we all be more open to the fact that there are other cultures and we should be able to learn them? According to Susan J. Dicker in 2003, Languages in America, Pluralist Point of View, she is a sociolinguistic, and she uses linguistics, history, and sociology, and combines all that, and she basically has come to the conclusion that language is a sense of self, and it can help you embrace your heritage, it helps you know who you are, where you come from, and it helps you just combine all of that. It's extremely important, and the fact that America, of all places, doesn't encourage pluralism is kind of crazy. She has stated that most European countries embrace pluralism. Most other countries in general embrace pluralism, but America just wants you to speak English, where, yes, all this green is Americans who speak English, but this whole section, the purple is Spanish, the yellow is Indo-European, the red is Asian or Pacific Island, and then the blue is other. So yes, 82% speak English, but there's still 18% that don't. And so it's more beneficial if we all just learn the other ones, and we break the barriers and we connect on that. The second topic we're going to be getting into is the fact that it doesn't just affect you, it affects all those around you. Did you know that according to Deaf Demographics and Employment, 3.6% of the American population is deaf? That's 11 million people. And I know that I personally have experienced it. I have ran into deaf people a lot, and I've had to encounter them. And I've had to figure out how to communicate with them. At first, when you encounter a deaf person, they will just go straight to writing it down, and they will go on their phone and they'll type it out perhaps. But in Delavan, Wisconsin, which is roughly 30 minutes away from Whitewater, there is the only deaf school in Wisconsin, actually. And if you live in the Delavan area, you should learn how to sign. You should learn how to use ASL because it's more efficient. It's more beneficial for you and those around you. If you're at the store and they ask a question, instead of typing it out or writing it out, it'd be more efficient if you could just communicate with each other via a language, and ASL is the one language that you would have to use. And it's just extremely important to break the barriers and make each other feel more comfortable with that. It would be so much better and feel better for all parties involved. Next, we're going to be discussing the funding. Yes, it's more expensive. If you can see on here, the top bar is longer. It's the foreign language expenses. I don't know how much you can see on there, sorry. But foreign languages are more expensive to run because you have to pay the teachers more because they're bilingual, and that's harder to come by than a just English-speaking teacher. You also have to pay for the extra books, the resources, and the online programs if you use those. And it is more expensive, According to the cost of dual language immersion programs in 2018, Ingrid Cullen wrote that it can cost up to $100 more per student. Now, that is for an immersion program, so that is an extreme version, so it won't cost that much just for requiring languages, but it can be pricey. But according to Language Life in Japan in 2010, Heinrich wrote that there were 75,000 immigrant children in the Japanese public schools from the 1980s. So if Japan can sit there and they can incorporate the language programs in there for all of these immigrant kids, and we can all learn how to redistribute the funding in the school systems, or we can give government grants to the schools so they can learn how to speak a second language. Most European schools also require this. They have to be bilingual, or they can go up to multilingual in their schools. And it's extremely important for these European countries and these Asian countries. So why aren't we pushing for it here? That's the main point out of this. The funding is possible. It's not going to be easy at first, don't get me wrong, but it will be possible in the long term. Now, we talked about the three main things. We talked about the self-expression. We talked about the fact that it can benefit those around you. We specifically use ASL for the example. And we talked about the funding issues. Now, Kloppenbach wrote that most spoken languages in the world, 2020, there are 193 countries. There are 6,500 plus languages out there. There are apps, there are websites, there are classes. You can go take them. You can go out there and learn another language. It's not too late. I firmly believe that every single American should know at least 2 languages, including English. So 1 more language. So go out there and get your start today.